Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready to explore. Today we're diving deep into Kyoto, going way beyond the usual tourist attractions. We're talking about a city that was Japan's imperial capital for over 1,000 years, a place that just oozes history. But here's the thing, Kyoto's story, it actually begins long before it became the capital. I'm talking way, way back. Archaeologists have actually found evidence of settlements that date back to the Paleolithic period. Can you believe it? It makes you wonder, what were those early communities like all those years ago, and how did they shape the Kyoto we know today?
It's amazing, isn't it? And when you look at the city's different names throughout history, you really get a sense of its evolution. Before it was Kyoto, it was known as Kais, Miyako, and Heian Kush, each name like a little glimpse into a different chapter of the city's past. For example, when Emperor Kanmu decided to move the capital from Nara back in the 8th century, he chose the name Heian Kuch. It means tranquility and peace capital. But it wasn't just about a name change, you see, it was a really strategic move. By moving the government away from Nara and its powerful Buddhist clergy, Emperor Kanmu was making a statement about imperial authority.
So it was like a political power move. I can see why he'd want to shake things up a bit, start fresh. But from what we've researched, things weren't always so peaceful in Heian-Kosh, were they? The Kunnin War that happened between 1467 and 1477, it sounds like it really turned life in Kyoto upside down.
It was devastating. Absolutely devastating. Just imagine samurai battles spilling out into the streets. Even the nobility and religious factions got caught up in the conflict. The city was left scarred deeply, and those scars actually shaped the way Kyoto looks today.
Hold on, really? You mean those wide avenues that Kyoto is so famous for, those are because of the Kunnin War? I always thought they were just a beautiful design choice.
Well, they are beautiful, but it's practicality that led to their creation. You see, after the war, they wanted to stop any future fires from spreading as quickly. So they built these wide avenues, and they acted as fire breaks, changing the whole look of the city.
That's incredible. So they're like a physical reminder of Kyoto's ability to bounce back. This is a city that has rebuilt itself time and time again, even after such huge destruction. And talking about rebuilding, didn't Toyotomi Hideyoshi, he was a major figure in Kyoto's history, right? Didn't he play a massive part in reshaping the city after the In War?
He did. He really did. In the late 16th century, Hideyoshi, he led this huge reconstruction effort. He implemented a systematized layout, creating the rectangular blocks and grid system that you still see today, a real contrast to how the city was laid out before. He also was involved in creating the Teramachi Street Temple District, grouping all the temples together to bring a sense of order and control to the city.
So he was thinking about both the practical side and the symbolic side of urban planning. That's really interesting. It makes you think, how much of the Kyoto we see today comes from his vision?
It's a question worth thinking about, and it shows how urban planning can echo through history. Just like those wide avenues from the Indian War, the decisions Hideyoshi made, they still affect how people experience Kyoto.
It makes you appreciate the layers of history woven into the fabric of the city, doesn't it? But Kyoto's story, it doesn't end in the 16th century. Even after the capital moved to Tokyo in 1869, Kyoto was still important. It actually played a surprisingly crucial role during World War II. And this is where it gets really fascinating. Did you know that Kyoto was actually considered as a potential target for the atomic bomb?
It's a chilling thought, isn't it? To think that a city so rich in history and culture, it was almost completely wiped off the map. Thankfully, Henry L. Stimson, he was the Secretary of War at the time, he understood how important Kyoto was culturally and fought hard to get it removed from the target list.
It's really amazing that one man's understanding of history saved Kyoto. It makes you think about how important it is to know about these things, about the past.
Absolutely. And what's even more incredible is that Kyoto's story, it's not just stuck in some history book. It's a living city, you know. It's always changing, growing, but it never forgets where it came from. You can feel it when you're there, those layers of time.
I know what you mean. You see those busy modern parts right next to these old, peaceful temples. It's a cool mix. And speaking of mixing old and new, Kyoto has a really unusual address system, right? It's not like those grids you see in most cities.
You're right. It's really interesting. During the Heian period, they designed the city using Chinese feng shui principles. It wasn't just about making it look pretty, though. It was about creating harmony, between the physical world and the spiritual world. The layout, with the imperial palace in the center and the Yukyu and Sakyu sectors on each side, that's all connected to how they named and organized the streets.
So instead of just saying 123 Main Street, you'd say something like, I live on the street of the whispering bamboo, that kind of thing.
That's the idea. It's wild to think about trying to find your way around Kyoto. using those old street names.
Yeah.
Talk about a challenge. It's very different from our GPS systems now, but it adds something special to the city, don't you think?
Totally. Like stepping back in time. And it's not just the names. Kyoto's split into 11 different wards, each one with its own story and feel. It adds another layer to the whole thing. We've talked so much about the history of Kyoto and how it was planned, but we can't forget about all the culture, right? The temples and shrines are super famous, but there's so much more to Kyoto.
You said it. We can't leave out the geisha districts, places like Gion-Pondochu. They're like little pockets of the past, you know? They give you this glimpse into a world of tradition, art, elegance. It's captivating.
The geisha culture has always been so interesting to me. The dedication to those art forms, the dance, the music. It seems like a really disciplined life, very dedicated.
It really is. And talking about art, Kyoto was full of traditional Japanese crafts. Kimono weaving, for example. It's been a big deal in Kyoto for ages. The artisans there, they pass down their skills over generations. It's amazing.
I love how those traditions are still thriving in a city that's also so modern. And speaking of traditions, we have to talk about the food. Kyoto's food scene is famous for a reason.
For sure. And they have special ingredients you won't find everywhere else, like kifasai. Those are vegetables grown only in the Kyoto region using their traditional ways of farming. It's supposed to be incredibly delicious, really special.
I bet. And then there are spots like Hunko Waria, that's Kyoto's oldest restaurant. It dates all the way back to 1465. Can you imagine?
It's hard to wrap your head around, isn't it?
Really?
To eat there must be like taking a trip back in time. Think about all the history that restaurant has seen.
It's incredible when you think about it, all these layers of history and culture and art and food all packed into this one city. And we've only just scratched the surface, haven't we?
Not even close. Kyoto stays with you, you know. Makes you want to slow down, take your time, wander through those old streets, those peaceful gardens. It makes you want to savor every moment, every experience.
Totally. It's like it honors the past, but it's also looking towards the future. Always changing, but still staying true to itself.
Exactly. And it makes you wonder, doesn't it? Kyoto's been through so much, wars, fires, modernization, but it always seems to bounce back, stronger than ever.
It does make you wonder, how does it do it? How does it keep that unique spirit, that identity, even with everything changing around it?
That's what's so cool about Kyoto. It makes you think about these bigger questions, you know,
Yeah.
about time and tradition and what it means to be human. Maybe by searching for those answers, we'd learn something about ourselves, too.
Wow, what a thought. I think that's a perfect note to end our deep dive on. Kyoto. It's more than just a place to visit, it's an experience. It's a journey through time. It reminds us of how powerful and resilient people can be. I hope this inspired you to check out Kyoto for yourselves, get lost in its streets, soak in all that culture, maybe even discover a few of your own secrets along the way. Until next time, happy exploring, everyone.